At the awards ceremony, Gu Chen, ignoring his married status, rushed to the stage to greet the rising star, Xiao Hua. The internet exploded. To spare her from being labeled a homewrecker, Gu Chen proposed a sham divorce to me, saying, if Brother Feng hadn't pushed me out of the way back then, I would have been the one who died on set. I'm just honoring his last wish by looking after his fiancée, you understand, don't you? Over the years, Bai Yao gradually became Gu Chen's one non-negotiable line. In my past life, when I heard those words, I threw a hysterical fit and refused to divorce him at all costs. It wasn't until I was literally driven to illness with cancer that Bai Yao remarked to Gu Chen, sister-in-law looks to be in such good health. Gu Chen then became convinced I was faking my illness for sympathy, to force me into a divorce. He even stooped to slandering me, claiming I was having an affair with my agent. It was then that the truth hit me. His heart had changed long ago. During all those years of care, in the end, in utter despair, I chose to end my life, a second chance at life. I snatched the divorce papers and signed them without a moment's hesitation. 1. Let's take a break for a while and get back together after this all blows over. Okay. I was leaning back on the living room leather sofa, staring blankly out the window, when Gu Chen led Bai Yao over to stand before me. It happened at yesterday's awards ceremony. After Bai Yao won the Best New Artist award, Gu Chen, the veteran actor and reigning film emperor, jogged over to meet her at the foot of the stage. Gossip accounts immediately sensationalized their relationship, and netizens were quick to condemn Bai Yao as the other woman, the one who destroyed our marriage. Gu Chen's meticulously crafted image as the perfect husband, built up over years, came crashing down overnight. The new drama he starred in saw its reputation plummet. In my past life, when Gu Chen came to me with the divorce papers, I flew into a rage. I smashed the limited edition perfume he had given me and screamed myself hoarse, demanding to know the truth about their relationship. She was merely the fiancée of my savior. There were so many other ways he could have looked after her, yet he chose to sacrifice our marriage, all just to protect Bai Yao's reputation. But Gu Chen never knew that during the peak of the online harassment, the stress made me develop cancer. Su Mian, Gu Chen's voice pulled me back to reality. I stared at the divorce papers on the coffee table. He sat down beside me, gazing at me with those eyes that had captivated countless fans, and gently took my hand. His voice was as gentle as if he were soothing a frightened animal. Consider it a favor to me, okay? We can tell everyone that our relationship has been troubled for a while. That we've been living apart for the last 6 months, and we're just waiting for the right time to make it public. I didn't respond. Beside him, Bai Yao was wearing a champagne-colored evening gown, with Gu Chen's suit jacket draped over her shoulders. Her face was deathly pale, and her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Sister-in-law, please, you have to help us. I've already lost my fiancé. Now I'm about to lose the last shred of my reputation. Sister, I'll kowtow to you. I beg you to let us be together. Before she could finish speaking, she tried to kneel. Gu Chen quickly stood up to stop her, pulling her into his arms instead. With a pained expression, she said softly, please don't. Bai Yao let out a sob, her voice fragile and pitiful. With her head bowed, she murmured, I'm sorry, I just wanted to apologize to you, sister. Gu Chen's brow was deeply furrowed. When he turned to me, the gentleness from moments before was gone. Su Mian. This isn't a request for your opinion. My mind is made up. If you don't cooperate, don't blame me for what happens next. I met his gaze calmly, and his words trailed off, but I knew exactly what he was about to say. He was going to say, Su Mian, you know the influence I wield in this industry. I have 100 ways to make you sign that paper. 2. If you leak this to the marketing accounts, you won't be able to handle the court of public opinion. Those were his words in my past life. Later, I was set up, and compromising photos of me and my manager were exposed. The so-called intimate evidence was crystal clear. Overnight, I became a shameless slut, drowning in a torrent of online abuse. Yet he and Bai Yao became the victims of the harm I caused. I'll sign it, but you have to agree to one condition, I said after a long silence. Gu Chen looked up at me and then nodded in agreement. He handed me the pen. I took it and signed my name on the divorce papers, my face expressionless. Aren't you going to review the agreement one more time? Gu Chen asked with a frown. I gave a slight, wry smile. That won't be necessary. He left nearly all of his assets to me, all for Bai Yao's sake, to repay a life-saving debt. Find some time tomorrow to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau and finalize the paperwork. All right, I replied. Gu Chen's hand, holding the agreement, paused for a moment. A flicker of confusion passed through his eyes, but in the end, he said nothing. As they were leaving, Bai Yao turned her head to look at me with a cold sneer, mouthing the words, I won, but so what? I've already lost a whole lifetime. This time, I'm bowing out. Soon after, The phone screen lit up with a message from Guchen. I'm sorry, Soo-mi-an, once this is all over, let's start fresh. If brother phone hadn't pushed me out of the way back then, I would have been the one who died on set. I'm just looking after his fiancée to honor his last wish, you understand, right? Reading those words, I couldn't help but laugh, even as tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. It was the same in my past life. Guchen, in his desperation to force me into a divorce, got completely wasted while scheming with his buddies. Little did he know, I was also quite close with that brother of his. Shenhe was trying to persuade Guchen not to ruin his marriage over Bai Yao. At the same time, he came to persuade me to understand Guchen, saying he was a man of deep loyalty and principle. If it weren't for Bai Yao's fiancé pushing him out of the way and taking the brunt of that explosion on set all those years ago, he wouldn't have any of what he has today. Back then, I asked through my tears, Guchen had so many ways to repay the debt of saving his life. Why did it have to be divorce? Shenhe fell silent. He had asked Guchen, and the answer he got was, Bai Yao lost her fiancé. I have to provide her with the emotional support she needs to go on living. I've given Soo-mi-an enough love in the past. It's fine if I give a little less now. Because I love him, I'll be the one to make the sacrifice. How utterly absurd. Thankfully, fate has given me a chance to choose again. 3. When it comes to Bai Yao, Guchen is always swift and decisive. He had just signed the divorce papers at my place during the day, and by evening, he had already arranged a press conference, even sending his assistant to invite me to attend and clarify the situation. I hadn't even said a word. Seeing me fall silent, his assistant quickly relayed Guchen's exact words to me. He said, Miss Soo-mi-an, it would be best if you attended this press conference. If not for actor Gu's sake, you should at least consider your own reputation. I was taken aback for a moment, then let out a cold laugh. Guchen was threatening me. He's trying to force my hand again with the same dirty tricks from our past life, smearing my name and leaving me to suffer in the court of public opinion. In the end, I had no choice but to bow my head in defeat. I could never figure it out. Did Guchen see me as his wife, or his enemy? Since he insists on publicly clarifying our relationship, then I'll see this through to the end. The press conference was held at the most luxurious Mandarin Oriental hotel in the capital, attended by the most influential media outlets in the industry. When Bai Yao appeared in a white gown, arm in arm with Guchen, the reporters swarmed forward. Guchen instinctively shielded Bai Yao behind him and said gently, I'll answer your questions shortly. Excuse me, could you please step aside? His voice was soft, and as he looked up, his eyes met mine. I, too, was surrounded by reporters. In that moment our gazes locked. I naively hoped he would come to my rescue as well, but the next instant, he casually averted his gaze, a smile playing on his lips as he led Bai Yao onto the stage, acting as if he hadn't seen me at all. I curled my lips in a sardonic smile. The reporter closest to me seemed like a novice, timidly extending the microphone toward me. Miss Soo-mi-an, is it true that you're divorcing actor Gu? Yes, I replied with a nod and a smile. The rookie reporter looked at me in surprise. But you and actor Gu started dating in college. It was such a long relationship, and you've been so loving even after marriage. Just last month, actor Gu went out of his way to win that limited edition jewelry necklace at auction for you. I kept the smile on my face, but the warmth had vanished from my eyes. He owed me that. A gift to make up for missing our wedding anniversary because he went to the amusement park with Bai Yao. In my past life, I was smug about it. I only found out later that the idea came from Shenhe. The necklace was picked by his assistant, and he didn't even know what it looked like. So, do you still love actor Gu now? She looked at me nervously. The surrounding reporters fell silent, and even Guchen on the stage turned his gaze this way, his brow furrowed slightly. I merely glanced at him calmly, a faint smile playing on my lips as I said, I don't love you anymore. I didn't wait for the press conference to end before leaving. Right after Guchen publicly declared that our marriage had been a shell for the past 6 months, overnight, I became the woman Guchen cast aside. Meanwhile, Bai Yao emerged as the most blameless victim in this whole scandal. 4. The footage from that press conference went viral on short video platforms, trending at the top of the charts for a solid week. Especially Guchen's statement. Soo-mi-an and I actually decided to break up 6 months ago. We were just waiting for the right time. I wanted to handle it quietly, but the situation has now escalated and is affecting innocent people. So I must step forward to clarify. Bai Yao is not a homewrecker. She was entrusted to me by my brother on his deathbed. Taking care of her is the least I can do. I hope everyone can be rational about this. Netizens started taking sides, accusing me of being petty and heartless, unable to tolerate a poor girl who lost her fiancé. They also said I wasn't good enough for a loyal and righteous man like Guchen. that after all these years of marriage, I still hadn't learned his kindness. The public opinion storm raged on for a long time, and I became the target of everyone's attacks. After finalizing the divorce and stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Guchen called out to me, "Don't pay any mind to what's being said online, it'll all blow over in time." I stopped in my tracks and couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. We're both victims of online harassment, so why is the treatment so different? Soo-mi-an, once this whole thing blows over, we can start over, okay? As he moved a step closer, I took a step back, my gaze fixed on the paparazzi with their long lens cameras not far away. Guchen also sensed the awkwardness and stopped in his tracks. "I'm going back to Jiangqing. It's been a long time since you've been back home. I'll come pick you up for New Year's." "I'm not coming back," I cut him off calmly. The gentle smile on his face froze, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. I continued, "When I agreed to sign back then, you promised me one condition. It's time to make good on it." Guchen stared at me, dumbfounded. The moment I was reborn, it only took me a few seconds to sort out my feelings of love and hate for him. When I saw the divorce papers, I truly considered tearing them up and making a scene. But in the end, reason prevailed over impulse. I met his gaze and said with a faint smile, "Guchen, from now on, let's just be strangers." With that, she turned and vanished into the crowd, leaving Guchen standing there, stunned and unable to process what had just happened. A wave of panic surged within him, as if he was about to lose the most important thing in his life. It was the same unease he felt when Soo-mi-an calmly signed the divorce papers. She wasn't hysterical, as if she had long foreseen this outcome, yet, not long ago, she had flown into a rage because he forgot their wedding anniversary. 5. He thought proposing a sham divorce was the solution. Soo-mi-an would definitely object furiously. He had even prepared a counter-strategy, yet, she was unexpectedly calm. When she picked up the pen, her expression was as placid and indifferent as a stagnant pond. In that moment, he almost stopped her, but in the end, he did nothing. He consoled himself that it was fine. Soo-mi-an loved him so much. Once the storm passed, they could reconcile, and he would make it up to her properly. But Bai Yao was different. She must not come to harm because of him. If it weren't for Bai Yao's fiancé pushing him aside and shielding him from that explosion on set all those years ago, he wouldn't be standing here today. Before he passed, Brother Feng entrusted him with Bai Yao's care. He couldn't bring himself to betray that trust. Shen Hao once asked him, "If Bai Yao and Soo-mi-an were both trapped in a fire, who would you save?" He chuckled and said the question was too naive. He would save Bai Yao, and then die with Soo-mi-an. Shen Hao also smiled, but then asked, "What if Soo-mi-an doesn't want to die? You can't keep taking advantage of Soo-mi-an's love for you to make her suffer. Someone who feels unloved will eventually grow cold and disheartened." He dismissed those words without a second thought. He brushed off the warning without a care. Little did he know, it would prove to be a grim prophecy. In the dead of night, Guchen drove to the upscale apartment complex. Soo-mi-an has lived here ever since she got married. She was a piano prodigy, hailed as a musical genius at the age of 10 after performing a Mozart piece. Everyone predicted she would become a master of her generation in the piano world, and they were proven right. However, after her marriage, Soo-mi-an's musical style changed, losing its former essence. Her mentor tried to guide her back, but to little avail. Eventually, Soo-mi-an gave up playing the piano altogether, even developing an aversion to touching the keys. Guchen entered the music room. He froze the moment he heard the piano music. The graceful, melodious tune was utterly captivating. Hearing the music, the butler approached and, upon seeing Guchen, looked slightly surprised. "Sir," Guchen asked, "when did Madam record this?" The butler replied, "It was the day you brought Miss Bai home." Guchen nodded, wanting to smile but finding he couldn't. After leaving the music room, he returned to the bedroom he shared with Soo-mi-an. Even though he kept telling himself this divorce was only temporary, once the storm passed, they were as close as ever, but for some reason, his heart remained hollow. 6. He dismissed Soo-mi-an's words today as nothing more than a fit of impulsive anger. This was Soo-mi-an's home, their home. She would always come back here. A soft knock sounded at the master bedroom door. Guchen looked up to see Bai Yao. She stood in the doorway, wearing a thin dress, her cheeks slightly flushed, quietly watching him. "It's so late, is something wrong?" Bai Yao bit her lip. "The paparazzi found my apartment. They've been camped out downstairs. Could I stay here for a while?" She hesitated, her gaze flickering. "Would I be imposing?" Guchen's brow furrowed slightly, but he said, "It's fine, it's getting late. I'll have the housekeeper prepare the guest room for you. You should stay." He was just about to call for the butler. Bai Yao, however, walked into the room, her large, glistening eyes fixed on Guchen. "Brother Chen, I don't want to stay in the guest room, is that okay?" she asked softly, Guchan's brow furrowed even deeper. Just as he was about to refuse, he saw the redness rimming her eyes. In the end, his heart softened. When the plane landed in Jiangqing, it was Jiang Che who came to pick me up. Back when he first debuted, he was falsely accused of sexual harassment by a female entertainer and was nearly blacklisted. Because of this incident, no talent agency dared to sign him. I met him at a charity concert. He was sitting alone in a corner and never spoke to anyone. If anyone got close, he would instinctively shrink away. Then one late night, when I was cornered by paparazzi and nearly got into trouble, he happened to pass by. I thought he would just look the other way, but he stepped forward without a moment's hesitation. That day I asked him, what if I were to falsely accuse you, too? He gave a helpless smile and said, whatever fate has in store, I'll accept it. I used my family's resources to clear his name, and on the day the truth came to light. His eyes were red-rimmed as he looked at me through the crowd, then bowed deeply. This turmoil did not extinguish the kindness in his heart. With his exceptional acting skills and relentless hard work, he has now become a red-hot, top-tier star. Su Mian, it's been a long time. Jiang Che, dressed in casual clothes, took my luggage. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. After marrying Gu Chen, I moved north with him to build our life. In my past life, when the accident happened, Jiang Che was filming on location deep in the mountains. I never got to see him one last time. Now that you're back, are you planning to settle down in Jiangqing? He asked cautiously. I said, I'm not leaving. Jiang Che smiled. Chairman Su is very pleased to know you're back. Suddenly, I froze. My hand in my pocket clenched involuntarily, and a pang of bitterness welled up in my heart. 7. The news of my divorce from Gu Chen was the talk of the town. My father, heartbroken to see me wronged, flew overnight from Jiangqing to the capital. He pleaded with me earnestly. Gu Chen is an utterly selfish man. He wants to repay a life-saving debt, but demands your entire life in return. What is that if not emotional blackmail? Why must you sacrifice yourself for his sake? Sumian, get a divorce. Gu Chen isn't worthy of you. He wanted to take me back to Jiangqing, but I refused, crying and throwing a tantrum to stay. With tears in my eyes, I said, I love Gu Chen. I won't get a divorce. Why should I be the one to step aside for his sense of obligation? Even if he drives me to my death, I won't leave. I'm not going anywhere. In the end, my father was so enraged by me that he had a heart attack and was admitted to the ICU, receiving multiple critical condition notices. Overnight, my mother's hair turned completely white. When father woke up later, he said nothing, but I knew he was deeply disappointed in me. As she was leaving, mother was still trying to reason with me. All these years, your father has never interfered with your decisions, but Gu Chen is not a good match for you. At the time, I was blinded by love and wouldn't listen to any advice. In the end, clarity came at the cost of my life. To Gu Chen, I was never that important. Are they all doing well? I asked Jiang Che. Jiang Che nodded. The company is thriving, and Chairman Su and his wife are both in good health. I smiled, looking into his clear eyes. Thank you, Jiang Che. Thank you for fulfilling my filial duties for me. Jiang Che shook his head. He said it was the least he could do. If my father and I hadn't given him a helping hand back then, he would have faded into obscurity in the entertainment industry long ago. The trending topics on social media are still constantly updating. The narrative has shifted from Bai Yao being Gu Chen's mistress to me being the heartless one. The media got photos of me and Jiang Che at the airport and started spreading rumors that I had an affair, which is what supposedly caused the marriage to fall apart. I couldn't help but laugh. When I looked down, my phone screen showed a photo Bai Yao had sent me from a burner account, a photo of her spending the night in our marital home. Brother Chen insisted I stay over last night. Guess what he'll do tonight? Brother Chen has strong morals, but now there's nothing standing in our way. Su Mian, your husband is mine now. She was trying to get a rise out of me, but my heart was already a still pond. Jiang Che poured me a cup of tea, shot a worried glance at my phone, and said with grave seriousness, Su Mian, I will make sure you get justice for all you've suffered. I didn't respond to that remark. Instead, I asked, I heard father has found several well-matched young ladies from suitable families for you. Why have you turned them all down? 8. Jiang Che seemed taken aback by my directness. He lowered his head, his fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. After a long silence, I asked again, is it because of me? He looked up at me sharply, met my gaze, then guiltily looked away. Over the past few years, even though Jiang Che and I hadn't met, I always received a carefully chosen gift from him on my birthday. Every time I politely declined, he persisted. I finally couldn't take it anymore and called him, unleashing my anger like never before. I said, Jiang Che, you saved me once, And I helped you once, we're even. It was my father who brought you back to the entertainment industry. The success you have today is all your own doing. I don't need your gratitude. Acting this way will only make Guchen misunderstand our relationship. After that, Jiangche stopped buying me gifts. Jiangche, I told you, you don't owe me anything. As soon as I finished speaking, Jiangche pressed his lips together and said, that's not how it is. What? He looked at me, a gentle curve forming at the corner of his mouth, his eyes filled with deep affection. I like you, Su Mian. I know I'm not good enough for you. I never dared to hope you'd feel the same way, but my feelings for you are real. I don't want to deceive anyone. After Jiangche finished speaking, I quietly studied him. When I first met him, he was insecure and withdrawn. Now, he's a red-hot top star in the entertainment industry and the artist my father values most. Last night, back at the old house, my father and I had a long talk about the company's future and my own. Just before I left, he posed 2 questions to me. The first one was, do you still love Guchen? I shook my head in denial, but at the second question, I fell silent. He asked softly, what do you think about Jiangche? Father is already planning to take a back seat. Even though he was the one who made Jiangche a star, Jiangche isn't one of our own. After all, the problem that had been troubling me suddenly became crystal clear. Jiangche, how about you and me give it a try? 2 days later, in the capital city, Guchen sat in the music room, his eyes downcast as he watched the video of Su Mian's interview with the entertainment reporters from that day. The reporter asked her curiously, so, do you still love Mr. Gu? Su Mian answered with a smile, no, I don't. Those 3 simple words left a heavy weight on his chest. He replayed the video countless times, searching for the slightest crack in Su Mian's composure. In the end, he found nothing. Frustrated, he clicked open his chat history with Su Mian. When he opened it, he realized the last message was him reminding her not to forget their appointment at the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize the divorce. Her only reply had been a single okay. In the past, Su Mian was always by his side, sharing every little detail of her life. He would always reply promptly whenever he saw her messages. He scrolled up through their chat history. Later on, more often than not, it was just Su Mian talking to herself. He's always so swamped that his only replies are a quick got it or roger that. His schedule is packed to the brim, with one endorsement event after another. Bai Yao's fiancé passed away unexpectedly, which devastated her and led to several suicide attempts by wrist cutting. He stretched too thin. Suddenly, a message came through from Jiang Yuan. Su Mian is going to marry Jiangche. 9. Guchen shot to his feet, accidentally knocking over the nearby music stand. Sheet music scattered across the floor as he scrambled to pick it up. A medical report slipped out from between the sheets of music. He froze for a moment, his fingers trembling slightly as he finished reading. The patient, due to prolonged emotional distress, has been found to have a thoracic tumor. Surgical intervention is recommended at the earliest convenience. The date on the report was the very day he had proposed the sham divorce to Su Mian. Brother Chen, what happened? Hearing the commotion, Bai Yao ran from the master bedroom to the music room. When she saw the medical report in Gu Chen's hand, a glint of calculation flashed in her eyes. May I see it? Bai Yao asked softly. Gu Chen remained silent, only feeling an unbearable tightness and pain in his chest. She took the medical report, flipped through a few pages, and then patted Gu Chen's shoulder with feigned nonchalance. Don't worry, Chen. I saw Sister Sumian that day. She was full of energy. Didn't look sick at all. Sister Sumian was probably just too angry. That's why she used a fake diagnosis to trick you. Bai Yao looked at Gu Chen. Just as she was about to continue, Gu Chen, suppressing his emotions, took the diagnosis report back from her hand. He walked a few steps away, then seemed to remember something, turned back, and said to her, don't stay in the master bedroom anymore. Starting tomorrow, Su Mian will be upset if she finds out. The words hung in the air, leaving Bai Yao frozen in place. By the time she snapped out of it and rushed after him, all she could call out was, Chen. Gu Chen was already heading downstairs, not even pausing to grab his coat. Whether the diagnosis was real or not, regardless of whether Su Mian intends to marry Jiangche, at this moment, all he wants is to see Su Mian and bring her home. Jiangche is taking our wedding very seriously, personally overseeing every single detail. He's busy filming all day, yet still finds time to check on the venue. 10. Late at night, sitting in the dressing room, choosing a wedding dress. You should leave these things to the wedding planner. You must be exhausted after filming. Standing in the doorway with a coat draped over my shoulders, I watched Jiangche bustling about and said, he put down his phone, turned to me with a smile, and said, I want to prepare everything for you myself. I know I might not be in your heart, But you will always be the most important person to me. I met his gentle gaze. A faint ripple stirred in my heart. Don't feel any pressure. Just be the most radiant bride. Jiang still wore a warm smile, his eyes brimming with unconcealed tenderness. I gave a slight nod, a faint smile curling at the corner of my lips. I never expected Guchen to show up on set like that. I had just finished visiting Jiang when I saw him standing outside. His suit, though impeccably tailored, looked disheveled. His face was alarmingly pale, his eyes dull and lifeless. His gaze lingered for a moment on our clasped hands, mine and Jiang. Before he looked away, Guchen forced a smile. Su Mian, I'm here to take you home. Let's get remarried, okay? As he spoke, he started walking towards us. Jiang instinctively moved to shield me, but I stopped him. I said softly as I helped straighten his clothes. Go wait for me in the car. We have an event to get to tonight. I'll be right there. Jiang looked down at me, the corner of his mouth lifting in a slight smile. Okay. With one last, cool glance at Guchen, I turned and walked away. Only Guchen and I remained in the room. He tried to move closer, but I subtly took a few steps back and said softly, Mr. Gu, it's better if we keep our distance. It wouldn't look good for either of us if the paparazzi caught us. The internet is going to say I'm a woman who can't get over her ex-husband. Public opinion is always so much harsher on women, just like with Bai Yao's situation. It was Guchen's choice, but in the end, I was made out to be the petty one. Su Mian, Guchen's eyes dimmed, and he offered a bitter smile. I've already had PR handle the online situation. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I didn't realize I was causing you so much trouble. I didn't know. Guchen, you know perfectly well. I looked at him, my tone calm. 11. If he didn't know how public opinion could destroy a person, he wouldn't have forced me to divorce him for Bai Yao's sake. In my past life, after I was exposed for having an affair and forced to divorce Guchen, my career hit rock bottom. People on the street would point and whisper, and some even mocked me to my face, saying, Su Mian, how do you even have the nerve to go on living after being treated like that by your ex-husband? If it were me, I'd have jumped off the roof of my apartment building. And he calls himself a pianist. Guchen never gave her a second thought. Why else would he have gone after her with such a vengeance? After that, I spent sleepless nights, sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city lights. I trashed the music room. I set fire to everything he ever gave me, foolishly hoping the flames could consume all the memories. I vented all my resentment. I hated how the person who once cherished me most could be the one to push me into the abyss. In the end, I took my own life. To this day, I still remember the feeling of my life slowly slipping away. Guchen wanted to explain, but the words died on his lips. He hung his head, like a child who had done something wrong. Mian, I will make it up to you. I couldn't help but laugh. I had heard that line far too many times. On the day Bai Yao's fiancé passed away, Guchen promised to take care of her. From then on, she became his top priority in everything. On our wedding day, Bai Yao threatened suicide. After dropping me off at the hotel, he never came back that night. That was when I started questioning whether to continue this relationship. Seeing how exhausted Guchen was, I held back. I loved him and was willing to stand by him through all the hardships. Every broken promise always ended with the same line, Su Mian, I promise I'll make it up to you someday. Guchen always thought we had all the time in the world, forgetting that even the deepest affection can wither away under repeated hurt. In the end, in my past life, I can no longer tell if it's love for him or just an obsession. After a long pause, I sneered, Guchen, my expectations were already so low, and yet you couldn't even meet that. I was also raised as the apple of my parents' eye. Why should I be trampled on by you like this? So let's end it here. As the words left my mouth, I turned to leave. Guchen, in a panic, grabbed my wrist. His tall frame swayed slightly, his pale lips trembling as he spoke. I don't agree. It can't end like this. Su Mian, you're my wife. You can't just leave me. His voice was choked with emotion. I let out a cold laugh and pulled my hand back. We're already divorced. Guchen, you forced me to sign the divorce papers, threatened me into attending the press conference to clear your name, and even supervised my trip to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize it. You did all of this yourself. Don't you dare deny it. Guchen was left speechless. I turned and walked away. 12. As he tried to follow, I gestured toward the space behind him. Mr. Gu, you and Miss Bai are a match made in heaven. Guchen's face instantly drained of all color. He rushed back from the film set in the early hours of the morning. His assistant found out where I was, and he came straight here without even removing his makeup. But when he saw Jiang and me laughing as we discussed the wedding details, his steps gradually slowed to a halt, and he just stood there outside the set, staring blankly. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen me smile so genuinely. every time we met, we'd end up arguing about Bai Yao. Gradually, he started canceling our dates, always with an excuse about being tied up on set or having late-night meetings with his agent. In that moment, a crystal-clear realization struck him. Every single word I said at the Civil Affairs office that day came straight from the heart. I'm truly done with him, but he couldn't accept losing me. He even wanted to storm in and beat Jiang Che up, warning him, stay away from my ex-wife. After much hesitation, he ultimately didn't take that step. He was worried he might upset Su Mian, brother Chen. Sister Su Mian left a long time ago. Bai Yao tugged at Gu Chen's sleeve. Pulling his thoughts back to the present, he looked down at her, his voice hoarse. What are you doing here? I heard Sister Su Mian is going to marry someone else. I was worried you might be upset, so I came to see you, she said softly, and just as she was about to hug Gu Chen, he frowned and held her shoulders. Instantly, her eyes welled up with tears. Chen Gu, Sister Su Mian doesn't want you anymore, but I do, let's be together. Okay. Gu Chen had always been completely devoted to her. She thought that once I divorced him, she would naturally become Mrs. Gu, but at that moment, Gu Chen's face instantly turned cold. Bai Yao, do you have any idea what you're saying? I know exactly what I'm saying. Gu Chen, I love you. It was the first time she had confessed her feelings so directly, yet, Gu Chen let out a bitter laugh, and as he laughed, tears began to fall. His manager had warned him countless times. The way Bai Yao looks at you isn't right. If you want to save your marriage, you'd better make her leave. Gu Chen, you're just too kind-hearted to see what Bai Yao really wants from you. Stay away from Bai Yao. Don't let her ruin what you have with Su Mian. But he never took any of it seriously. Serves you right. 13. The entertainment industry is a fishbowl. The slightest bit of gossip spreads across the entire internet in the blink of an eye. On the third day Gu Chen came to see me. Jiang Che sent the evidence of Bai Yao's forged medical records to Gu Chen's email. He then compiled a complete timeline of all the times Gu Chen had stood me up over the years for Bai Yao's sake and posted it online. Overnight, netizens were at each other's throats, but it had nothing to do with me. Some said Bai Yao deliberately sabotaged my marriage to Gu Chen, driving us to the point of separation. Others called Gu Chen a hypocrite, saying if he truly wanted to repay the life debt he owed to Bai Yao's late fiancée, how did taking care of her end up in bed? He had to go and hurt his own wife, driving her to the point of despair and wanting a divorce. Gu Chen's reputation was in ruins. The new film's production was stalled. Not long after, I exposed evidence that Bai Yao had hired people to buy trolls to smear me as the other woman. The online public opinion has spiraled completely out of control. Besieged by troubles, Gu Chen had planned to send Bai Yao abroad to lay low, but upon seeing the evidence, he immediately grabbed her by the throat right there on the film set. He confronted Bai Yao. Why would you do this? Bai Yao initially tried to play the victim. Just as she was nearly suffocating, she suddenly burst into maniacal laughter and confessed everything. I just wanted to be Mrs. Gu. I just wanted to force Su Mian to divorce you. Gu Chen, you have only yourself to blame. If you truly loved Su Mian, I would never have had a chance. Gu Chen was so enraged that he coughed up blood and lost consciousness. A bystander's video of the incident went viral online. Gu Chen's new project was forced to shut down. After regaining consciousness, he had an emotional breakdown and was promptly blacklisted by his agency. As for Bai Yao, his reputation was ruined, forcing him to flee the country. It was just terribly unfortunate timing. He was killed in a car accident on the way to the airport. On the wedding day, Jiang Che orchestrated a magnificent wedding for me. The entire city was abuzz, with dazzling fireworks and all eyes upon us. When a guest remarked that marrying Jiang Che was a blessing earned from a past life, he coldly had them escorted out of the ceremony. Then, during the vows, he declared with utter sincerity, from this day forward, I am a part of the Su family. In life and in death, I belong only to the Su family. Jiang Che knew that a shadow of Gu Chen might still linger in my heart, but his kindness towards me never wavered. The wedding night, he held me in his arms with such force, as if he wanted to meld me into his very bones and blood. I only found out after I pressed for answers. Gu Chen took his own life. In his final days, he experienced a period of lucidity and mailed the medical report I had left in the music room to Jiang Che. Before he passed, he left behind a long letter. The letter was long. Every word was filled with regret. He said he had a nightmare. 14. In the dream, he forced me to get a divorce. When I refused, he framed me, dragging me into an adultery scandal. In the end, I was driven to the point of suicide. He said the version of himself in the dream only wanted to pressure me into divorcing him and never meant to push me over the edge. He was even more unaware that my cancer diagnosis was real. He said if he had known I was sick, he would never have hurt me like that. When he saw me covered in blood outside the hospital emergency room, his heart broke. He wished it were him on that operating table instead. The letter ended with, "Thankfully, it was all just a dream," and one more line. "Please forgive me." A cold smile touched my lips. I casually tossed the letter and the diagnostic report into the shredder, watching them turn to confetti. "Madam," Jiang Che's brow furrowed slightly. I said softly, "The Sun Mian of the past was indeed gravely ill, but the person I am now is no longer her. Once I left the person who hurt me, my sickness was cured." After a long moment, Jiang Che smiled, a look of tender affection and heartache in his eyes. I looked at him and found myself smiling too. What a relief. In this life, I have achieved the best possible ending. The end. Story 2. As I was tending the fire in the stove, a line of subtitles flashed before my eyes. The female lead is about to burn her university acceptance letter. The heart-wrenching plot begins. At that moment, Zhou Rongzong handed me a discarded box. He said, "Burn it, it's all useless stuff inside. This box contains the heroine's university acceptance letter. If it's burned, she'll lose her chance at higher education forever. The heroine is doomed to stay home, serving her mother-in-law in lonely misery for most of her life. The male lead takes the supporting female character to the capital to build their careers, and they secretly have a child together. Only when the male lead grows old, becomes paralyzed, and is cast aside by the other woman does he realize his true love was always the heroine. Then, they reconcile and rekindle their relationship." I stared blankly at the barrage of comments, my hands falling still. Zhou Rongzong urged, "Hurry up and burn this, it's just taking up space." Just as I was about to open the box to take a look, Zhou Rongzong's expression changed slightly, and his tone grew urgent. "They're just some old documents I don't need anymore. You wouldn't understand them anyway. Hurry up and burn them." In the past, whenever Zhou Rongzong showed signs of anger, I never dared to defy him. This time was no exception. Only after seeing me toss the cardboard box into the stove did Zhou Rongzong finally walk out. Once the sound of his footsteps faded into the distance, I quickly fished the box back out. Fortunately, the stove had long since gone cold. Zhou Rongzong rarely entered the kitchen and hadn't noticed a thing. With trembling hands, I opened the cardboard box, and a bright red admission letter came into view, seeing my own name, Fan Qing, printed on it. I felt a stinging sensation in the corners of my eyes. After hiding the admission letter, I walked out of the kitchen and heard voices coming from the main hall. "Mom, don't worry, Fan Qing has already burned her university acceptance letter. She'll stay home and take good care of you. I'm taking Xiaomei to the capital." Mother Zhou's voice was uneasy. "What if Fan Qing finds out the truth?" Zhou Rongzong sneered. "Who can she blame for burning her own acceptance letter? When the time comes, we'll just say we forgot to put it in the box." The male lead is so disgusting. This is a classic angst fest of a novel. The first half tortures the female lead, and the real satisfaction only comes when the male lead has to grovel to win her back. What satisfaction? He spent his prime years frolicking with the supporting female character, and only comes crawling back to the female lead when he's old and no one else wants him. What's the difference between this and Wan Baochuan digging for wild vegetables for 18 years, only to be empress for 18 days? My heart finally turned to cold ashes. It was only now that I fully believed the truth in those barrage comments. So, Zhou Rongzong never intended to take me to the capital city from the very beginning. In his mind, I was just a free live-in maid, someone to be left behind in the hometown to look after his mother. The room fell silent for a moment. Zhou Rongzong saw me as I entered. His tone icy. "Xiaomei got into university, but her family is too poor to afford the tuition. How much money do you have left?" "I don't have any money." Zhou Rongzong was taken aback. I, who had always been at his beck and call, was actually giving him attitude. A sneer flickered across his face. "Xiaomei is all alone in the world now. Don't you bear any responsibility for that?" My heart gave a violent lurch. My father was a flood-fighting hero, back then, in the floodwaters. He first saved Zhou Rongzong, who was closer to him, and didn't have time to rescue Lu Xiaomei's father from the same village, and after my father managed to get Zhou Rongzong to safety, he was exhausted. He himself was swept away by the torrent and never surfaced again. If my father were still here, I wouldn't have to worry about my tuition. Lu Xiaomei had arrived at the house at some point, sniffling and wiping away tears. Despite being a country girl, she was quite lovely. And her tearful appearance was all the more pitiable, and she blames the female lead for this. Has the male lead lost his mind? The whole point of rescue is to help whoever's closest. I asked Zhou Rongzong, my voice trembling. "So you resent my father for giving his life to save you?" Zhou Rongzong's face darkened. "I could have climbed ashore myself. Your father saved me only because you fancied me, didn't he?" Now you've gotten your wish and married me, still not satisfied, absurd. Utterly absurd, he twisted my father's heroic sacrifice into something with ulterior motives. I was so furious I was left speechless, my mouth hanging open without a sound. Lu Xiaomei tugged at Zhou Rongzong's sleeve. Brother Zhou, don't blame Sister Feng Qing. She's just upset about not getting into university. As if no one else was around, Zhou Rongzong took out a handkerchief and wiped Lu Xiaomei's tears. Don't worry about your living expenses and tuition for university. I'll figure something out. Lu Xiaomei smiled gratefully, her eyes crinkling. Brother Zhou, I've made some wild vegetable rice. Come to my place and try it. We won't be able to eat this once we're in the capital. After saying this, she glanced at me cautiously. Sister Feng Qing won't be upset, will she? Zhou Rongzong snorted coldly. Don't mind her, she owes you far too much. With that, the two of them left together, their silhouettes leaned close. A picture of perfect harmony. Lu Xiaomei's family was one of the poorest households in the village. Her father had been bedridden and paralyzed even before he passed. I used to often ask Zhou Rongzong, who I grew up with, to go with me to help the Lius with their farm work, but at some point, without me noticing, it became just Rongzong going over to help Xiaomei's family by himself. Mrs. Zhou, who had been watching from the sidelines, gave me a helpless look. Rongzong is just speaking in anger. He only sees Xiaomei as a little sister. You should go and smooth things over with him later. We women have to be accommodating to our men if we want to win their hearts. After my father was killed, Mrs. Zhou tearfully promised in front of the whole village that she would treat me as her own daughter. She could tell I had feelings for Zhou Rongzong and immediately arranged our marriage. Looking back, it's clear that Mrs. Zhou was a wolf in sheep's clothing. She knew all about her son's scheme and still tried to push me into the fire. I made up an excuse to go into town and bought a train ticket to the capital for tomorrow. I have absolutely no desire to face any of these people ever again, but the comment section exploded. So the female lead is going to university in the capital. How is our male lead supposed to pull off the chasing his wife to the crematorium trope then? Once the female lead gets to the capital, she'll run straight into the male lead and the supporting female character living as husband and wife. Now that's going to be juicy. I chuckled. Zhou Rongzong still thinks he can go to the capital. Not a chance. Zhou Rongzong is a doctor at the town hospital. The only reason he got the opportunity to do advanced training at a hospital in the capital was because he was my father's prospective son-in-law. What if he weren't my father's son-in-law? Since he thinks I'm marrying him out of a sense of obligation, then I simply won't marry him at all. I went to my aunt's house again and told her about my decision. My aunt was delighted. I always thought that boy was cold towards you, she said. He's not the right one for you. My aunt immediately called my uncle, who worked in the county town, to retrieve the marriage application for Zhou Rongzong and me. Fortunately, it hadn't been stamped yet and could be voided. By the time I got home, it was already dusk. The sound of laughter and cheerful conversation drifted from inside the house. Lu Xiaomei and Zhou Rongzong sat side by side, their heads close together. Brother Rongzong, have some fish. You won't get to eat home-style cooking once you're in the capital. Zhou Rongzong smiled, picked out the bones, and placed the fish meat back into Lu Xiaomei's bowl. You should eat more too. They exchanged a look and a knowing smile, just like close family. Mrs. Zhou was the first to notice me and gave a wave. The room fell silent instantly, as if I had shattered the warm atmosphere. I ignored it and walked straight to my room. Someone let out a soft hum, and the lively chatter in the main hall resumed. The conversation was filled with Lu Xiaomei's daydreams about going to Beijing, with Zhou Rongzong chiming in occasionally, punctuated by the sound of Mother Zhou's laughter as she scolded them for not eating properly. I paid it no mind and began sorting through my own belongings. I suddenly noticed that the metal box inside the bedside drawer had been moved. A bad feeling washed over me. I quickly opened it, only to find the pocket watch inside was gone. It was the last thing my father left me. Frantically, I searched everywhere, but there was no trace of that pocket watch. Just then, a barrage of comments lit up the screen. The male lead gave the pocket watch to the supporting female character. She's going to accidentally break it right in front of the female lead. Here comes the heart-wrenching plot twist. Instantly, I felt all the blood in my body rush to my head. I rushed out, struggling to keep the anger out of my voice. Zhou Rongzong, did you take my pocket watch? Lu Xiaomei said with a giggle. Brother Zhou said you didn't get into university, so you wouldn't need it. I can wear it to keep track of time for my classes. My hand trembled slightly as I stared fixedly at Zhou Rongzong. What gives you the right to give away my things? That was my father's keepsake. After he saved Zhou Rongzong, he used his last ounce of strength to make him promise to get that watch to me. The pocket watch had many parts ruined from being soaked in muddy water, and Zhou Rongzong was even more frantic about it than I was. Because he knew I needed to hear the ticking of its hands every night to fall asleep peacefully. The watchmaker thought it was beyond repair, but he got down on his knees and begged until the man reluctantly agreed to fix it. No matter how cold Zhou Rongzong was to me afterwards, my heart would soften whenever I remembered this. Faced with my questioning, a flicker of discomfort crossed Zhou Rongzong's face. Mrs. Zhou hurried over to take my hand. Just as she had done so many times before when Zhou Rongzong had snubbed me, playing the part of the good cop. It's just an old watch. Rongzong can buy you a new one and have it sent over later. I shook off Mrs. Zhou's hand and stared intently at Zhou Rongzong. You think a new one will do just fine too, right? Zhou Rongzong hesitated, about to nod. I immediately picked up the photo hanging on the wall. It was a picture of Zhou Rongzong with his parents, the only family portrait taken while his father was still alive. Fine, I'll just tear this one up. You can take another one together. Zhou Rongzong's expression finally showed a crack. The veins in his arms bulged, and his voice was thick with rage. Fang Qing, you've gone too far. You're so unreasonable and overbearing. I never should have married you. Mother Zhou was also nearby, pacing anxiously in circles. See? It only really hurts when the whip lands on your own back. The female lead is so badass. I really hate watching parts where women get abused. It's infuriating. My tone, however, remained perfectly calm. May I have my watch back now? At Zhou Rongzong's signal, a flash of resentment crossed Lu Xiaomei's eyes before she slowly, reluctantly, pulled out the pocket watch. Malice gleamed in her eyes. Hold it carefully. If it breaks, don't blame me. I remained perfectly calm. If the watch is broken, the photo won't be safe either. The pocket watch was finally returned to me, safe and sound. After that whole fiasco, Lu Xiaomei couldn't very well stay any longer. With red-rimmed eyes, she ran back home. Zhou Rongzong shot me a reproachful glare before chasing after her. Mrs. Zhou stood by, making pointed remarks. Some women put on an act of being sweet and sensible, thinking they can throw their weight around once they're married. I said nothing and turned to go inside. As dusk slowly fell, I sat in my room, staring at the train ticket. If it weren't for the danger of walking alone at night, I'd be gone already. I don't have much, just a few clothes and some valuables. The door suddenly swung open, and Zhou Rongzong walked in, holding a bowl of noodles. He usually never comes into my room, so I wasn't on my guard. I didn't have time to hide the train ticket on the table, and he saw it right away. He looked taken aback for a moment, then let out a sigh. This is the train ticket you bought for me, right? I've already made plans to go to Beijing with Xiaomei. Please refund this ticket tomorrow and buy 2 new ones for Beijing, departing 3 days from now. Seeing that I remained silent, his tone softened a little. Don't overthink it. Xiaomei is your neighbor, and she'll be like a little sister to me too. She's the only one from our village who got into university in Beijing. It's only right that we look out for each other. I stared at the smudge of lipstick on Zhou Rongzong's white shirt. If you're in love with Lu Xiaomei, I can step aside. The marriage application can probably be withdrawn. I thought to myself, if Zhou Rongzong would just admit it openly, I could tell him he's not going to Beijing after all. It would save him from getting his hopes up for nothing. After all, my father saved his life. I'm not looking to drive him into a corner just yet. Before I could finish, Zhou Rongzong's face fell. When he looked at me again, his eyes were filled with a tender, lingering affection. I promised your father I would take good care of you. I can't go back on my word. What kind of care is this? It's about clipping someone's wings and turning them into a lifelong servant for your family. How revolting. What kind of twisted mind came up with this plot? The original author is way too lenient on the male lead. How could they let someone like him get back together with the female protagonist? I hope the original author gets ice-skied into the female protagonist's role. In the original story, I married Zhou Rongzong, but ours was a marriage in name only. After his advanced studies at a Beijing hospital, he stayed to work in the city and lived as husband and wife with Lu Xiaomei. Meanwhile, back in our hometown, I toiled without complaint, caring for his mother who later fell gravely ill. Even when I suspected his heart might have changed, I foolishly waited for him to come back to me. Finally, when I was nearly 50, he returned to me in poor health. Overjoyed, I took care of him once more, providing him with a peaceful final chapter of his life. How could anyone be so foolish? I could have had a brilliant future, studying the architecture I loved and contributing to the nation's development. Instead of wasting it all on this empty marriage, I'm so stupid it makes me want to cry. Yet Zhou Rongzong mistook my tears, thinking his rare act of swallowing his pride had moved me to weep. A flicker of smugness crossed his eyes before he resumed his usual aloof demeanor in front of me. Mom said she wants to throw a farewell banquet for me tomorrow afternoon. It's just that he didn't finish his sentence. In the past, to spare his pride, I would have already taken out the money and handed it to him, saying generously, "Don't worry, I have enough money on hand." Zhou Rongzong had been working at the town hospital for a year or two, yet he had never once contributed his salary to the household expenses. I'd asked him about it before, in a roundabout way, and he got really angry. Lu Xiaomei's family is the poorest in the village. She doesn't have a pension like you do from your father. She wants to study, so I'm supporting her. Thinking about it now, wasn't he essentially using my money to support Lu Xiaomei? Zhou Rongzong, seeing I wasn't responding, grew annoyed. "Fang Qing, are you even listening to me?" I blinked. "Tomorrow I'll go to the county credit union and withdraw some money for your banquet. You and Xiaomei will surely have a lot of expenses for this trip to Beijing, so I'll add a bit more for you. It's not like I spend much anyway, just farming back home." My thoughtfulness took Zhou Rongzong by surprise for a moment, then he nodded in understanding. After all, I'd always had his best interests at heart, so it was only natural I'd go this far for him. He reached out as if bestowing a favor, intending to ruffle my hair just as he usually did with Lu Xiaomei. I deftly avoided his touch. Zhou Rongzong frowned, seeming annoyed by what he perceived as my ingratitude. I lowered my head, feigning shyness. "Well, let's wait until the marriage report is approved. I'm worried about my reputation." Zhou Rongzong's eyes darted about evasively. I knew, just as the barrage comments had said, that he never intended to share a room with me. He planned to leave for Beijing before we even got the marriage certificate, leaving me in a living widowhood for most of my life. Pretending not to notice the flicker of guilt in Zhou Rongzong's eyes, I ushered him out of the room. Is the female lead about to do something stupid? If the plot just follows the original story, I'm dropping this. Hold on. I bet the female lead is cooking up a big move. Early in the morning, Mother Zhou came back with loads of chicken, duck, fish, and meat. Seeing me up, her face lit up with a beaming smile. "Oh, dear, meat and vegetables are so expensive these days. Auntie, don't you worry about buying groceries. If you're short on cash, just put it on the tab. Rongzong going to the capital is a momentous occasion. We've got to send him off in style." Reassured by my words, Mrs. Zhou became even more hospitable, serving me a huge bowl of noodles and then calling on the neighbors to help buy more provisions. A few of the neighbor ladies chatted away as they helped wash the vegetables. "With your son about to leave home, you've gone and leased all the neighbors' fields too. Do you really have the energy to work them all?" Mother Zhou glanced in my direction. "It's fine, Fang Qing is here. She's young and strong. Once we sell the grain, we can send the money to Rongzong. He shouldn't look shabby out there in the world." Everyone praised Mother Zhou for her good fortune, saying her son was promising and her daughter-in-law was very capable. Amidst all the flattery, I shouldered my large bag and walked out the door. Just as the door was closing, I pointed at Mother Zhou and finally spat out the words I'd held back for so long. "You old hag, goodbye." The room fell silent for a moment. By the time Mrs. Zhou realized what had happened and slammed the table in anger, I was already long gone. To get to the county town, you need to take a bus from the township. As I passed by a jewelry store, I heard a familiar voice. "Brother Zhou, this is too expensive. We can't go to the capital looking shabby. Don't you worry about the money, we'll figure something out." I turned my head and saw Zhou Wenzong gently fastening a small gold chain around Lu Xiaomei's neck, even though I was prepared to cut ties with the past. A faint pang of bitterness still washed over my heart. Back when I decided to marry Zhou Rongzong, I had hinted that he should give me a gift as a keepsake, even if it was just a silver bracelet, but he had said coldly, "We're just farming folk. That sort of thing isn't our way." I guess I never deserved it in the first place. Lu Xiaomei was giggling sweetly when her eyes suddenly fell on me. Zhou Rongzong also looked over. His hand seemed to tremble, and the necklace slipped to the floor. I walked over, picked up the necklace, and said, "This would suit Xiaomei perfectly. You should buy it." Zhou Wenzong breathed a sigh of relief. "This is a gift for Xiaomei getting into university. I was going to ask you to buy it, but I figured you'd be busy today." This necklace wasn't cheap. It probably used up the last of Zhou Rongzong's savings. And the reason he could spend so generously was probably because he thought I'd be there to back him up. Lu Xiaomei gave me a sweet smile, but her eyes were full of provocation. "Brother Zhou said the banquet this afternoon is to celebrate me getting into university. I have to dress up for it." Indeed, Lu Xiaomei was dressed in the height of fashion, a dacron shirt paired with bell-bottoms and leather shoes. There wasn't a trace left of the impoverished village girl she once was. Meanwhile, I was wearing a drab, faded cotton shirt and a pair of cloth shoes a size too big. Hand-me-downs from Zhou's mother, who said they were practical for work. The contrast between us couldn't have been more striking. Zhou Rongzong noticed it too. He frowned slightly and said, "Xiaomei is going to live in the capital. Don't compare yourself to her. And remember, the banquet this afternoon is to send us off. don't make a scene and embarrass everyone. I nodded obediently, which seemed to take Zhou Rongzong slightly by surprise. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but I just waved a hand. Congratulations in advance. I turned to leave, but Zhou Rongzong stopped me again. He looked at the large backpack on my shoulder, a puzzled expression on his face. If you're just going to the county town to withdraw money, why are you carrying so much stuff? I said without batting an eye. Torn clothes can still be worn after my aunt mends them. Lu Xiaomei covered her mouth in surprise, her eyes full of disdain. You're so domestic. Sister Fangqing, I really can't compare. Zhou Rongzong reassured her, you're different from her. She stays in the countryside and doesn't see many people, so as long as the clothes are wearable, it's fine. He then turned to remind me, don't buy the train tickets too early. Xiaomei likes to sleep in, and I'm afraid she won't make it. I nodded obediently, and my docile demeanor made Zhou Rongzong pause once more. I'll write to you often once I'm in Beijing. You take good care of my mother. As if to thank me for my understanding. He leaned close and whispered in my ear. Lu Xiaomei immediately grew alert and grabbed Zhou Rongzong's arm. Brother Zhou, didn't you say you'd treat me to ramen? Sister Fangqing must be busy, otherwise. Zhou Rongzong cleared his throat awkwardly. Come home early today, I'll bring you a pickled vegetable pancake. Whenever Zhou Rongzong went to town, I'd always ask him to bring me back a pancake. He'd always come back empty-handed. When I asked him, he'd say matter-of-factly, I passed by Xiaomei's place, and she happened to be hungry, so I gave it to her. Don't get upset over a pancake. I don't have the slightest craving for pickled cabbage pancakes anymore. The capital has all sorts of pancakes with way more fillings. I can buy my own from now on. I maintained a polite smile, gave them a wave, and strode off. Once I reached the county town, I first met up with Auntie Lu from the village. Dear, you're selling us your house for such a low price. You're getting the short end of the stick. Auntie Lu held the new property deed, looking a bit sheepish. I wore a troubled expression. I don't know if they'll be willing to move out. It might get messy. Auntie Lu spat in contempt. The Zhou family is clearly trying to take advantage of you, a single woman. I've had it with them for ages. Eating your food, living in your house. My 3 sons are all police officers, and I'm in the right here. They wouldn't dare cross me. Once I get back, I'll go reclaim the house and kick out that scheming mother and son. Safe travels, dear. I finally boarded the train bound for Beijing. The barrage of comments kept scrolling, and I pieced together the whole fiasco that had happened back in my hometown. After Zhou Rongzong and Lu Xiaomei returned to the village carrying all sorts of gift bags, the village feast officially began. Just as the food was being served, the postman delivered a registered letter. Seeing the return address was from Beijing, Zhou Rongzong's face immediately lit up with joy. He opened it right in front of the villagers, only to find it was a document rejecting his application for advanced studies in the capital. Zhou Rongzong couldn't believe his eyes and checked it over and over, muttering to himself, this can't be right, there must be some mistake. He grabbed the postman's arm. My father-in-law was awarded a second-class merit. How could this happen? The postman was just the messenger and was even more bewildered. Once the villagers learned the truth, their fawning over Mrs. Zhou and her son instantly vanished. Their faces turned, and they began to mock and jeer at them. Some neighbors didn't even wait for the gathering to end. They demanded payment for the meat and dishes directly from Mrs. Zhou, as it had all been bought on her credit. Mrs. Zhou, an elderly woman with no means to earn, had no money to begin with. I had been covering the household expenses all year, and Zhou Rongzong's funds were already exhausted. One brutish villager outright snatched Lu Xiaomei's gold necklace, saying he would sell it to settle the debt for the food. The banquet ended on a sour note. Mrs. Zhou was so furious she felt dizzy. Why isn't Fangqing home yet? She fumed. She doesn't even care how much of a mess this house is in. Zhou Rongzong also frowned deeply. He was anxious for my return to get to the bottom of things. He hoped I could write a new letter to the hospital in my father's name. And then there was Xiaomei's necklace. He was counting on me to get the money to buy her a new one as a replacement. Zhou Rongzong rushed to the village chief's house to borrow the phone and call my aunt. My aunt and I had already coordinated our story, so she simply claimed to know nothing. That evening, Aunt Lu showed up again with her 3 sons to take possession of the house. Mother Zhou and Zhou Rongzong thought Aunt Lu was joking, but they panicked the moment they saw her name on the property deed. Mother Zhou threw herself on the ground, kicking and screaming, cursing me for being heartless and vowing that Zhou Rongzong must divorce me when I returned. Zhou Rongzong was utterly agitated, his heart inexplicably seized by panic. Auntie Lu was ruthlessly efficient. She packed up the belongings of Zhou and his mother, tossed them outside the door, and promptly slammed it shut. With no other choice, Zhou Rongzong had to take his mother to stay temporarily at Lu Xiaomei's house. as their own old home had long since fallen into uninhabitable disrepair. Having been thwarted at every turn, Zhou Rongzong's resentment towards me had likely reached its peak at that moment. He blamed me for not being able to sort out his future, and resented me for selling my own house without even telling him. He comforted Mrs. Zhou, though it sounded as if he was also trying to convince himself. Feng Qing probably wants you to live in a better place. She's always been sensible about these things. Having lost face today, Mrs. Zhou was absolutely furious. From now on, Feng Qing must stay home and serve me properly, or this isn't over. Oh, and the new house must be registered under a Zhou family member's name. Zhou Rongzong hurriedly assured his mother that he would make sure she got her way. After all, I always did as he said. He stood at the village entrance, watching my cousin from my aunt's family approach from a distance. His eyes searched hopefully behind him, but my figure was nowhere to be seen. Zhou Rongzong's face darkened. If your cousin refuses to come home, then she need never return. There's a limit to this kind of tantrum. My cousin tossed the documents needed for the marriage at him and said coldly, my cousin has already taken her own papers. From now on, she has nothing to do with you. Zhou Rongzong's face went deathly pale, as if struck by lightning. It seemed he had finally realized that I probably wasn't coming back. This is so satisfying. I love seeing the male lead get his comeuppance. So is the chasing his wife to the crematorium arc next? Chase nothing. If it were me, I'd never forgive that scumbag. The universities in the capital haven't started the semester yet. I've rented a place nearby and am studying a foreign language in my spare time. The bullet comments say that mastering a foreign language will become a crucial skill in the future. Life is simple yet fulfilling. Investing in yourself is far more worthwhile than getting caught up in a hopeless romance. That's what it means to take responsibility for your own life. Marriages can falter, and people's hearts can change, but the skills you acquire will stay with you for life. Just a few days before the new semester started, the long quiet bullet comments lit up again. The male lead is here to win her back. Don't you dare soften your heart, heroine. Just as I expected, I ran into Zhou Rongzong at the school gate. The man who was once so handsome now looked utterly exhausted. A clear sign that life hadn't been kind to him lately. When he saw me, he let out a heavy sigh of relief, his voice urgent as he said, come home with me. I asked, back to where? You ran off this far without a word. How could I possibly rest easy? After your father entrusted you to me, after we go back, we'll file the marriage paperwork again. I'll let the matter of you sneaking off slide. Just say a few nice words to my mother, and she won't give you a hard time either. Zhou Rongzong's tone brooked no argument, laced with the same condescension he had used so many times before when speaking to me. A chill ran through me. Even now, Zhou Rongzong was still fixated on the idea of me being a live-in maid for his family. I pulled out my university acceptance letter and waved it in front of him. Do you really think marrying you is more important than going to college? Exactly. What's a man compared to your own future, especially a loser like him? Seeing the acceptance letter, Zhou Rongzong's face finally fell, and his tone softened. If you're still upset about the admission letter, I can apologize. It was thoughtless of me. I was only thinking about making it up to Xiaomei for you. I agree that you can continue your university studies in the capital. We can take care of Xiaomei together. Oh my god, is he even human? He wants to drag his wife into taking care of his mistress. A surge of rage erupted from the depths of my heart. Unfaithful in love, ruining my future, slandering my father, scheming against my entire life. I don't want to put up with this anymore. I rushed over to Zhou Rongzong. His pupils were dilating, and I could see a flicker of anticipation in his eyes. He even spread his arms wide, as if to embrace me. Smack, smack, smack. I slapped him 3 times with all my might. But it still wasn't enough to vent my fury. Then I picked up a wooden stick from the roadside and started whacking him over the head and body. Compensation, compensation, compensate my ass. Can you even speak like a human being? Is your head full of shit? My old man never should have saved a piece of shit like you in the first place. Zhou Rongzong's expression shifted from shock to disbelief, then contorted in pain before gradually settling into calm. He looked at me quietly, not flinching or dodging, and even let out a laugh. If hitting me makes you feel better, please, go ahead. In his eyes, was my bone-deep hatred nothing more than a child throwing a tantrum. The barrage was furious too, the helpless feeling of not being able to slap someone through the screen. In the eyes of someone who doesn't care about you, even if you hang yourself, they just think you're on a swing. I scooped up a dark shit-like lump from the ground and smeared it right across Zhou Rongzong's face. Finally, he couldn't hold it together anymore. His calm expression cracked, and he doubled over, retching uncontrollably. Now it was my turn to look at him, calm and composed. Zhou Rongzong, Don't you dare use the excuse of making it up to Lu Xiaomei for me to carry on a secret affair with her. You want to have your cake and eat it too, expecting me to be your unpaid housekeeper while you fly off into the sunset with her. You're despicable. And another thing, get out. Don't ever show your face around me again. The female lead is absolutely badass. Bravo. Zhou Rongzong fled in utter disgrace. Life settled back into a quiet routine, with the bullet comments occasionally revealing updates on Zhou Rongzong's situation. Wow. Lu Xiaomei got into another fight with Zhou's mother. The old lady tried to use the same sweet-talking tactics she used on the female lead, but Lu Xiaomei is way too sharp for that. She doesn't take any nonsense. Lu Xiaomei kicked Zhou and his mother out, saying she's a college student and needs to focus on her studies. She can't afford to get tangled up with a jobless loser like Zhou Rongzong. The barrage was full of cheers, saying the scumbag got what he deserved. I watched calmly, feeling little emotion inside. The resentment I once held has completely vanished. I just want to live my own life well from now on. What happens to them is none of my concern. But Zhou Rongzong came to the capital city again. I thought it was out of resentment that he had come to pursue Lu Xiaomei, yet he kept loitering around the entrance of my school. Whenever he saw students coming or going, he'd ask them to bring me all sorts of snacks, with pickled vegetable pancakes being the most frequent. People would ask him who he was. He would declare loudly, I am the husband of Fan Qing, a freshman in the architecture department of your university. Rumors began to circulate at school that Fan Qing's husband was utterly devoted to her, so lovesick he was practically turning into a stone statue waiting for his wife. Under pressure, I had no choice but to meet with him again, thinking I hadn't made myself clear. I repeated, we're done. I did like you once, but now I can't stand you. During the years my father was in the military, I lived with my grandmother, but she was old and hard of hearing, so my childhood was lonely and dull. Only Zhou Rongzong was willing to play with me. He taught me how to catch fish and climb trees. Once, I had such a high fever I nearly didn't pull through. He cried and said he would become a doctor one day to take good care of me. Everything around me was changing, yet I alone remained lost in the affections of our childhood. But I came to my senses in time and will not look back. Zhou Rongzong's face grew paler and paler. He grabbed my sleeve, his voice choked with emotion. I'm sorry, I went too far. I do love you, but your father died because of me. I couldn't face you. The guilt was too heavy. That's why I chose to avoid you. Can you ever forgive me? Holy crap, I don't believe this is what loving someone looks like. What a jerk, and what a lame excuse. So love is just about causing pain. Don't make me laugh. A flicker of mockery passed through my eyes as I said coldly, you know perfectly well whether you're crawling back because Lu Xiaomei dumped you, or because you lost your job and finally saw the light. A massive like emoji popped up in the barrage. The truth is, every sudden change of heart happens only when there's no more benefit to be gained. No one comes back just to love you again. A flicker of confusion crossed Zhou Rongzong's face. No, I just don't want to lose you. I want to marry you. It was only after you left that I realized, I still love you. Disgusting. If it can't be made clear, then it's better left unsaid. I shook him off and strode towards the campus. On campus, I ran into the son of my father's old comrade in arms. We'd met as children, and to my surprise, we were both studying the same major. We formed a study group, venturing off campus together to visit various buildings and exchange our insights. Qin Shuhai had an optimistic personality and a wealth of knowledge, often regaling me with all sorts of strange and fascinating tales. After we finished the project, we went to a restaurant off campus for a meal. Out of nowhere, Zhou Rongzong appeared. He pointed at me, his eyes bloodshot, and shouted, Fan Qing, so this is why you won't get back with me. You've fallen for someone else. The other students around us craned their necks to watch, because of his whole long-suffering husband act. My name was already campus gossip fodder, compared to the vibrant university students. Zhou Rongzong looked haggard and listless, having been worn down by days of hustling and scrimping to get by in the city. He seemed to have aged years. Qin Shuhai wanted to step in for me, but I stopped him. He was already caught up in this mess because of me. I couldn't drag him in any deeper. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Now that she's a university student, is she going to abandon her humble husband? A chin shimmy isn't necessarily a man, you know. Hearing these voices of support, a glimmer of hope surfaced on Zhou Rongzong's face. Fan Qing, let's file a new marriage report. Okay, that way I can stay in Beijing and keep you company. A chill ran down my spine. Zhou Rongzong had always been a bit aloof, but I never thought he could be this obsessive. I looked at him coldly. From the moment you decided to burn my admission letter, there was never going to be a future for us. Zhou Rongzong's face darkened, his gaze turning instantly grim. So, Fan Qing, you don't love me that much after all, do you? It was just a small mistake, why won't you forgive me? Oh my god, this scumbag has some nerve, he calls that a small mistake. When my classmates heard he had once tried to burn my university acceptance letter, their attitude changed instantly. They understood better than anyone how much effort and time it takes to get into college. Zhou Rongzong, who cared more about his pride than anything, couldn't stand the judgmental stares and whispers from everyone around him, so he turned tail and fled once again. The male lead thought the female lead had dumped him because he'd gotten ugly and dressed poorly, so he actually went to find Liu Xiaomei to demand his money back, following a tip from the bullet comments. I spotted Zhou Rongzong chasing after Liu Xiaomei from a distance on a street off campus. Liu Xiaomei was dressed fashionably, with a boyfriend holding a brick phone by her side. He seemed pretty well off. Liu Xiaomei, I spent a total of 5,500 yuan on you, give it back to me. Now, Liu Xiaomei sneered, you spent money on me of your own free will, why should I pay you back? Liu Xiaomei's boyfriend also burst out laughing and casually tossed a 10 yuan note onto the ground. Here, take it back. Zhou Rongzong had never been insulted like this before. His face flushed crimson with humiliation. Through the crowd, he spotted me from afar and hung his head in shame. It was a week later that we learned of Zhou Rongzong's disappearance. He had fallen into the river. It said that Liu Xiaomei agreed to repay the money and arranged to meet him by the river that evening to hand it over. Zhou Rongzong slipped and tumbled into the river. Liu Xiaomei didn't call for help at first. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, he was already on the brink of death. Liu Xiaomei explained to the police with an air of innocence. Zhou Rongzong said he could save himself even during a flood. I thought he was a strong swimmer, so I didn't call for help. I wonder what Zhou Rongzong would have thought if he'd heard that while struggling in the water. He resented my father for saving him when he believed he could have saved himself. The boomerang he once threw came back and struck him right between the eyes, nearly costing him his life. What a joke. He ran off with a supporting female character in his youth, and only comes crawling back to the female lead when he's old and unwanted. Liu Xiaomei, a member of the Whole Self group, was arrested for attempted murder. She remained defiant. Didn't he deserve to die? The money was a mutual agreement, but he clung to me like a leech. He should have taken a good look at himself in the mirror. After being admitted to the hospital, Zhou Rongzong suffered permanent lung damage. How long he has left is in the hands of fate. He requested to see me. I'm sorry, that was all he said. I moved closer to him and could clearly see the regret and pleading in his eyes. What was he pleading for? Damn, he can't possibly be hoping the female lead will take care of him from now on. Can he? You owe my father an apology, and know this, we will never forgive you. The light in Zhou Rongzong's eyes went out instantly. His hand fell heavily onto the hospital bed, followed by another fit of violent coughing. I walked out of the ward and never looked back. Upon hearing the tragic news, Zhou Rongzong's mother fell gravely ill and was bedridden for the rest of her life. Though she always wore a smile in public, she was known for scheming behind people's backs. None of the villagers were willing to care for her, and in the end, she starved to death in her own home. Karma's a real thing. The tragic story just turned into a total power fantasy. I bowed deeply to the barrage of comments. If not for their warnings, I would have become the tragic, suffering heroine of a melodrama. Now, I'm finally the main character who's in control of her own destiny. The comments all expressed shock. Can she actually see us? That's amazing. We saved a girl's life. The barrage of comments vanished from that moment on, never to appear again. Someone tapped me on the shoulder from behind. Let's have dinner together tonight. I turned around and saw Qin Shuhai's beaming smile.